What's up, everybody? Welcome back to HOA MMA. AJ, after a week off, both busy schedules. I was stuck on a job at work. Just hard to catch up some weeks with everything going on in our lives. How you been this past week, man?
Busy, just like you. I mean, not too busy to the extent of obviously yourself, but just busy at work, busy with things at home. Our summer's ending over here now, so everyone's just kind of making last minute plans to enjoy things as much as possible. There was a big heat wave last week. Well, a heat wave over here is like 88, which I'm guessing for guys like you over on your side of things, it's seen as just something very light. But yeah, no, I've just been keeping myself busy, keeping myself active. Still recovering on my foot and my leg, but I think it's going good on that bit. I'm a bit more mobile now, which I can't really complain. And yeah, apart from that, and it's been a rough week for me in terms of sports. We'll go into one of them later. And my Giants got absolutely washed over on the weekend. And imagine for you, it was a very good weekend for you because obviously your Browns look good, man.
Good.
Your Browns look good.
I gotta say, man, right off the top, I don't know if you could take a harder L for a weekend in sports than you did this past weekend. And I think you've handled it pretty well, but that's tough, man. That was a tough weekend.
I've had worse.
Two of your favorites getting beat like that, though. I don't like those are two of the worst losses we've seen in a while.
I've had worse. I've had worse, especially when it comes to football, as in
that's true.
Yeah, so I've had worse. I've had way worse than this, man.
But that was a tough weekend, 40-0, and then obviously we'll talk in depth about the other one. When are the doctors letting you know, or when do you think you're going to feel 100% again with your foot and your leg?
So funny thing is, I've got a podiatrist. I was meant to see them end of August, but with for the few people who kind of know about the NHS situation over here, because of COVID, everything gets backlogged a lot. I think I mentioned this before. Everything gets pushed back in terms of seeing appointments and stuff. So I sent off an email a couple of days ago. Sometimes they will take a while. I would imagine I'll get seen again sometime before the end of the month. In terms of when I'm 100%, it's just mainly when the muscles get strong enough again, because at the moment they're quite weak and they're overworking, and that's what's causing a lot of the stress in it all. So it could honestly take a while. I've only been really doing all these rehabbing and stuff for 3 months so far, and it may take up to around a year tops, but it really honestly depends. It's just a case of just repetition in terms of all of my exercise and stuff, and making sure I don't put any unnecessary pain on it or stress on it. So hopefully it could be in a few months, or it could be around next summer, maybe June, July, maybe. But as long as I do everything on my part and keep myself healthy, and dieting helps as well, as long as I do everything on my part, hopefully in the next coming months I'll be back out there properly. Even though I've done little bits of training here and there, just to kind of see where I'm at, and I can see improvements a lot, but I'm not. But it's weird, when after a while, when yourself, I know it isn't the same. I don't have that same spring. I don't have that same snap just yet, but I can see myself getting there. So it's just all about timing, bro.
Yeah, at least you believe you can get back to 100%.
Oh yeah, 100%.
You're not at the point where you could be doubting you're getting back to where you once were. So that's good that you have in your mind that you will be back, which is obviously what we all want for you. So, AJ, anything else we got before we dive into UFC 293?
Just I kind of guess for everyone who could, because we had a week off. We had there was an event last week. UFC Paris. Gone looked good, but as good as he looked, Spivak looked awful, very, very sloppy takedowns. But I feel like that kind of shows that Garn does have takedown defense because Spivak is a really good grappler. But again, I guess there is a difference between trying to get into taken down by John Jones and then taken down by any other person. But
Right.
Spivak was very, very sloppy, and it's kind of how we spoke about how we thought it would play out. If it stays on the feet, Garn would tuning up, and that's kind of what happened. Fog Rose, tough for her, man. I mean, Manafort is good, but her finger was messed up. But I know a lot of people say that obviously Rose is too small and Rose should obviously go back down, but she still looked very good. I feel like if she has a bit more time, getting used to fighting at 125, she could make a lot of noise. But I do understand in the sense that she's more likely going to get a title shot quicker if she moves back down.
Yeah.
And I guess I've got two more things to bring up when it comes to that. UFC Paris. Morgan, the Last Pirate, looked really good. Like those body kicks were just hellacious. Just hellacious, man. He literally he made his whole body move and just like vibrate in pain. Benoit saying Dennis needs to have a top 50 opponent. Very impressive with him.
That guy's dangerous, man. I like watching that guy fight. That guy,
he's fun to fight.
Fight. Yeah,
and he's had two back-to-back wins against really, really good opposition as well, and he's impressed.
Yeah, I think you're totally right on that. I think he's deserving of a little bit more because that guy can flat out go. Like you said, Surreal. The takedown was sloppy. The takedown attempt was sloppy. He shook it off, and he pieced up Spivak. It wasn't all that close. Volkan Ozdemir, nice job with that rear naked choke. It seems like Bogdan Guskov was a little out of his depth there. It just seemed like he wasn't on that same level as Ozdemir. I had Guskov winning that fight, but you know how those things go. Sometimes you're just not ready. And then William Gomez getting the win over Giannis. I thought Gomez looked good. I like the way he fights also.
Did you also watch the featured fight on the prelims?
Laplace was that Logran and Laplace?
Yeah.
I caught the end of it.
The fans cheering throughout that whole fight was incredible. Incredible. I know that obviously Lotrin had obviously like a lot to say about French MMA in general, and that pissed off the fans. But literally, like when the fans are chanting, and when they're booing him as he comes out, and when they're chanting and they're singing, like whenever they sing the national anthem over there, it really hits, like they really get into it. They're really like passionate people. And that was that's going to be one of my unsung favorite moments of the year, just because just that crowd in that moment was very, very great to see. It was pretty much incredible.
I think I'm going to turn this into a bigger point. The UFC's done a really good job in the last 2 or 3 years of making UFC London, UFC France, or sorry, UFC Paris. You know what I mean, though. Feel like really big events, and I think the fans have done a really big job in their own right of making these events feel very legit and very important, because obviously it's such a national pride thing to have UFC Paris, UFC London. And then the fighters, they take that energy and they bundle it and put it into really good fights. I think they've done a really good job of making these kind of marquee events that you want to fight. Like if I was an American, I'd be wanting to fight, one of those top London guys or top Paris guys. I know I'm not using the right nationalities and things like that, but you know what I'm trying to say is, those are marquee events now. They're not pay-per-views, but we've got those circled as big events throughout the year when we get to go to London and Paris now. I think they've done a really good job with those events.
And it's a good showcase, to kind of really show how international and global this fighting promotion is.
Yeah.
We got an event in Sao Paulo in November with Almeida versus Blade. We got people talking about UFC Africa. We got Auckland next year. Like
Right.
we had Singapore like recently.
Yeah.
We got all these fighters who come from all over the world, and we've obviously got a big cultural event this weekend with Mexican
Yep.
in Independence Day as well. And it's like as you said, Paris and London have shown, especially since post COVID, that there is a great demand for having international fight nights in these major cities. And it'd be kind of cool to see it elsewhere. Like imagine seeing it in like Poland, where in Poland MMA is pretty much it's like it's like a national sport over there,
Yeah.
especially in like Eastern European places, or maybe go to other places in South America,
Mhm.
or maybe eventually go to Africa, and we can do China next year. That's kind of like the big thing next year. We're gonna have it in China. Maybe
Yeah.
go to Japan. It kind of gives the opportunity to really showcase how global MMA is, and
And
also, it kind of gives fans opportunity who probably stay up until like 3 a.m. in the morning, or like really early or really early during their day, depending where they live, and to have the chance to see these guys fight live.
right.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
It's
No,
amazing.
that's a great point. It rewards the fans for their loyalty by bringing
Mm,
shows to their home cities, home countries, because
yeah.
obviously not everybody can live in a London or a Paris, but like
Mm,
you know this is on my time now. I don't have to do crazy hours. I get the reward of just watching it straight
yeah.
up, and I think this proves that these big international cards can be fight nights and be still very successful. So I think they've done a really good job of just this whole thing after COVID. I know before COVID, UFC traveled, but I think they've done really well with the traveling post
Yeah.
COVID.
In
Um,
2024, we need to have no more Apex shows.
no, that's done. That
Yeah.
should be contender series only, and let's stop with putting the big guys on those cards. It doesn't do them any justice, unfortunately. Um, AJ, let's jump ahead into UFC 293. Um, what were they at? They were in Sydney, Australia. Is there anything on the undercard you want to touch on before we hit the main card?
Carlos Ulberg is as good as advertised, but
Man,
now we need him against good level competition. I keep saying this every time he fights. I'm like top 15, top 15, top 15, because apart from cardio issues where like sometimes towards like the later like third round he may start to gas a little,
mhm.
but apart from probably Kennedy Nzechukwu, he's kind of
Yeah,
blown people away, and he's very impressive. And he obviously got the last minute choke, like very last minute.
yes.
And it's smart for him to call up Reyes, because Reyes at this point is obviously ranked. He hasn't fought in a while, and it's
Mhm.
like do you either like carry on, and if you do, you're gonna have to fight against one of these up and comers, and Allberg is one of those rising stars. So obviously I understand why he went and called him out, but Allberg as always was very impressive. But at this point now, especially after especially if you're gonna look at his recent run, this will warrant to kind of have a chance to crack into the top 15, especially at like heavyweight, where they clearly need like new guys.
Yes. Yeah, I mean he's won since that Kennedy fight. He's won five. I mean, it's very
Yeah.
impressive what he's done. Um, what is going on? There we go. But yeah, him winning five straight since fighting Kennedy is also impressive. I do want to give a little him getting on all those cards with Izzy. I think has really helped also to bring more eyeballs. I mean, think about it. We're more inclined to watch those cards ourselves more closely, so we've gotten to see him every time Izzy's fought. He's been on those cards, and I think that's really helped him. And I appreciate that Izzy brings along those guys and gets them on the cards. So I wanted to mention that we've been able to see Carlos a lot more because of the City Kickboxing connection and things like
Mhm.
that. But yeah, that guy can flat out fight. Reyes, I think, is a solid call out.
Mm.
And I think he could probably beat him, honestly. I mean, we haven't seen much of Reyes lately, like you said. It's a good fight for him. I think that's a smart call out. First fight on the card was, or first fight on the main card was Tyson Pedro versus Anton Turkali.
Yeah.
Um, the Pleasure Man is what they call him, right? The Pleasure Man. Jesus Christ, what a name! What a name! I got to say, Tyson Pedro, really nice striking, really nice. Did a just impressive TKO victory over the Pleasure Man. What did you think about that fight?
That fight kind of went how I thought it would go. On paper, I don't like saying the word like mismatch, but there was a definite like gap in skill, especially on the feet. And Tyson Pedro has shown that when he's on, he can overwhelm people because one, he's very technically sound, and his
Yeah,
striking is very crisp, and especially since joining um CKB, that's kind of just refined in terms of what he's good at, even more to more like focus and sharper level. But I do put him in the same, ironically, in the same box as Allberg. Like I want to see him against top guys now, and especially since this is a guy who didn't fight in like 3-4 years. He had like a very long layoff. Like he was injured for a very long time, and now he's kind of playing catch up. And it's very clear to see that against these lower caliber of guys, he's shown that he is too good for them. Apart from the Modescus fight, where in January, where he just looked off. He just looked
yeah,
off and that. But at this point now, you kind of feel like, if I'm someone who is as good as him, I've had a long layoff after 2 or 3 fights. I really want to get in there against the big boys now.
mm-hmm.
Like it's all good to me beating all these guys blown away in rounds 1 and 2, but if he's good as he says he is, and especially because he comes from a family which is like Australian MMA like royalty,
Mm-hmm.
he should want to go out there. I want to fight against the best. So
Yeah,
again, like kind of like Allberg, he needs to kind of be in that 15 to 10 mix now next. And that running celebration was cold. That running
yeah,
celebration was cold, man. That was fucking cold.
I enjoyed that.
Yeah,
Yeah, just to piggyback what you said, he had that 4-year layoff after the Rua fight, and
yeah,
that's now he's getting back into the active and being active. You can see how talented this guy is. Really good for Tyson. Expect him to keep moving up the rankings, like you said. Let's move on to Justin Tafa versus Austin Lane. Like I told you in the past, if we could get the Tafa brothers on every major fight card, we know for a fact we'd get one finish because those guys are so dangerous. They're so fun to watch. Justin Tafa puts Austin Lane out with the big right hand. Very impressive TKO / knockout. What'd you think of that one? Justin Tafa getting the win.
two big guys crashing out.
Yeah,
Someone will eventually get laid out, and Tava got to him first, and I know Austin Lane is kind of on like a bit of a downward like slope of recent, and yeah, Justin Tuffer goes out and does what Justin Tuffer does. He'll go in there and he may go out there and take probably 3 or 4 shots, but then he'll probably throw 5, and the fifth one will probably catch you, and that's what he did.
yeah. No, I just really like watching the Tafa
He,
brothers fight. I got to
he,
tell you, dude,
he
Lane's got to keep his fingers down. He
yeah,
about poked him in the eye again in the early
again.
parts of that fight, and you could tell that pissed Toph off, and he just started going after him a little bit harder after that happened because that first time that eye poke was really egregious. So, what were you gonna say? I'm sorry, I was just trying to mention
Oh
that
no, I
that
was
spark.
gonna, I was gonna ask you, who are you more fan of watching, Junior or Justin?
Probably Junior, but that's just because I don't think. And here's to be fair, I'm still learning a lot as we go. Sometimes I get them mixed up
Mm-hmm.
because I mean, to be fair, they do look very similar, but sometimes I
Mm-hmm.
get them mixed. So I'm like, oh, I think Junior's knockout was maybe Justin's, and Justin's was Junior's. So I just really like them both, but I would probably say Junior I like a little bit better. Um, but I know for a fact I've watched Justin's last 4 fights for sure,
Mm-hmm.
um, dating back to him fighting Hunsucker, Porter, Lane, and then the 2 Lane fights. So I know for sure I've seen his last 4. I just yeah. So what about you? Which one do you prefer?
I like I like them both. I like Junior more because Junior is a bit more technical, and I kind of
Yes.
I like the more of the like sweet science of like of how it plays out on the feet. And for someone so big, his Junior's sense of movement and timing is really good, and that's something that I really like a lot in him. But then I know whenever I see Justin Taffer fight, I know either one person is going to get laid out
Yeah.
either way, you
Yeah. No.
know.
It's
So
yeah.
I can't have any like if I'm watching a fight card and I see the name Tougher on it, I know I'm going to see like a good fight.
And
I'm,
that's what I appreciate about both those guys. They bring it
yeah.
every time. Let's move on to the next fight. Manuel Cape versus Felipe Dos Santos. Dos Santos. I got to say before we like really get into the fight, massive shout out to Felipe Dos Santos. That guy's going to be a player going forward.
Mm.
Um, Imagine that guy with a full fight camp going up fighting against a guy as talented as Cape. Um, Break that one down for us a little bit. That was a hell of a fight, man. Hell of a fight.
I'm just going to say this now. Felipe is literally Charles Oliveira at 125 pounds, and it kind of shows because obviously them two are like campmates. They're obviously
Yeah, they're same team. Yeah.
um yeah, no, you're right. I mean, who whoever was meant to face him on the contender series, you got off. You got off with one. You got off with one because it kind of sounded like coming all the noise around him before this fight that he was a bit he's seen as a phenom in a way, you know.
Yeah.
And to be fair, and we can see why. And Manuel Cap is very he Manuel Cap is one of the best flyweights out there, and he showed that. He literally showed that he showed he had a bit more experience and he was more skilled on the feet especially. And if you follow Manuel Cap's career, like he's fought in Ryzen and he did very well over there. And when he first came over to the UFC, his first fight was against Pantoja, who is obviously now, you know, that who is now the champ. And that kind of shows how high they thought of him when Manuel Cap came in. And he's now finding his stride, and he looked very good. Like as good as Felipe Dos Anjos looked in defeat, Manicap was very impressive, very impressive because I wouldn't be shocked if we see Felipe top 10 within the next 2 years or so.
Yeah, for
Like
sure.
he looks that good. Like he has potential for that to be that good. Again, we'll have to see it over time, but very encouraging signs, especially someone who's very young as well. That being said, as fun as that fight is, we have to see Kai against Cap next.
There's just nothing else to book. Like there's just no it. I think that should have probably been announced at the press conference afterward.
Yeah.
What's the reason not to?
I can imagine Auckland next year. If the Auckland card happens early next year,
it would have to be early next year because I'm guessing they want to get them in there as soon as possible because of the buildup they did themselves during fight week. You don't want to lose that like steam, you know.
Yeah, I can imagine. Imagine if Auckland happens early 2024, that could be like a co-main if it's a fight night, or if it's Volk against Topuria, which a lot of people are saying you could have that, you know, on that main card as well. But that fight has to happen next, and considering what both guys are capable of, that's going to be fireworks.
Oh, for
That's
sure.
that, like even if you took away the beef, that's going to be fireworks. Oh, how many F-bombs got dropped? Like it's fucking insane,
Guys, like,
crazy.
I just don't think we've gotten to the point where the word doesn't need to be used. Like, everybody knows there's other words to insult people. You could literally call him a fucker. You could call him anything else. You could use any other cuss word you want. Let's just stop. Like, 2 times in one night is just too much. I mean, I think, you know, I just didn't love it.
A pay-per-view event that has Sean Strickland on it and 2 other people say that word.
And he was he was the nicest guy of the 3. Like, it's just crazy. Like, he said the tamest things of the 3 people. Like, that's how you know people were overstepping the line quite a bit. Like,
they were wilding. That
was a little bit rough. Both of them, congrats on their wins, but let's tone that part down a little bit. Use other words, because nobody would have batted an eye if you called him a motherfucker or a fuckface or anything like that. Like, whatever, just come on.
I will give them the leniency in the sense that after a fight, when you're like full of like adrenaline and you're popped up, you kind of don't really think before you say most times. But again, as you said, there's plenty of other words to say.
Right. I mean, yeah, just not fantastic. But massive shout out to those 2 guys. Really good fight. I would assume, you know, at 23-year-old Felipe dos Santos will be back in there probably early next year and be in probably a decent sized fight. You mentioned the Charles Oliveira connection. Obviously, they're teammates, partners, all that kind of stuff. I think it's better now that he's partners with Oliveira and he's got that Oliveira build. He may not have to hit the road bumps that Oliveira hit in his career to really grow into the great fighter he became, because he has the Charles is there to teach him and show him like some of the pitfalls that Charles had to go through. I think that's going to be a really massive thing going forward in his career, is having Charles as a mentor. Charles he's been at the bottom, he's been at the top, and he's stayed at the top now. So you know what I'm trying to say, though?
Yeah, and if you kind of add it into how to translate in terms of inside the cage, Charles has well-rounded his skill set very well over the past couple of years as well too. So you know, so if you're seeing someone day in day out working on everything and fine-tuning it all and fixing holes after like each fight, for someone who's 23, that's gonna that eventually down the road in a few years could really pay off. It's especially at flyweight, where you know you're probably 1 or 2 fights and then you could be ranked in the top 10, even though the talent is slowly increasing. We always got the guys. You know, we got Tyra, we got Mo Mokiev, we got like those 2 young guys who are going to be like the future. Felipe could be in that bunch as that new wave coming up.
He's got the skills to definitely be in that conversation.
Yeah.
Let's move on to a guy that we're both big fans of, Tai Tuivasa versus Alexander Volkov. The Ezekiel choke got Tai out of there. Let me ask you a question. As brief as it was, is Tai's run in the top 5 over?
That is a good question. Okay. I want to say no, but I'm very hesitant to say no.
Okay.
You know, even before the Volkov fight, we have shown that he has a weakness on the ground. He has a weakness on the ground. He has a big hole there. We've seen that against Sergey Spivak. Sergey Spivak literally choked him like to sleep before. We've obviously seen that. He had his run. One argument could say he caught guys at the right time. He caught Derek Lewis is obviously gotten older. Augusto Sakai, whereas obviously Augusto Sakai is obviously now out of the UFC. You know, some people may just look back and wrong and say he caught people at the right time and didn't beat guys who were really that good. Like Greg Hardy and obviously as such. His recent losses have been against Gane, Sergey, and now Volkov. Gane is probably the best strike, the best, or probably the he's if Gane on the feet isn't the best striker at heavyweight, he's literally 1A 1B, whoever you think is better than him, right? Sergey is literally just like a buzzsaw. He's piecing up everyone right now. He's blowing everyone away, and Volkov's still good. Like, I know people think Volkov is like, oh, he's been here for too long. He's kind of just like a gatekeeper. When Volkov's on, he's really good on the feet, and he's one of the dangerous guys who knows how to use his size. And he got his first ever submission win. I believe as well. So he's shown that he's working on his game. It was rough for Ty. Like, even if you take away what him getting choked out, even on the feet, Volkov didn't have an advantage there, because Volkov has been there, done that. Like, he's very technically good. Like, he will give most heavyweights on the feet problems. Like, literally, period. There's a reason why Curtis Blades shot like 50 times against him. You know. Do I feel that Ty's in the top 5 is done? It's a bit hard. It's a hard one to say, because if we kind of look into the future, potentially Jones and Stipe, then their upcoming fight could be like their last fight. And then we've got who I've called like the 4 princes. You got Aspinall, Gane, Sergey, Almeida. Those are 4. Outside of that, you've got Blades, who is very much still there. You got Volkov. You got guys like Rosenstrike, who are like there or thereabouts. Yeah. So really, that 5th spot is still up there. I'll probably give that to Blades, in my personal opinion, because I still think Blades is that good, and Blades is only in his early 30s still. Right. I believe. So, and there are a few up and coming heavyweights, but I don't think that they're just there yet. So Ty still has a chance, but he's gonna find it hard against the really high echelon guys. Unless he manages to catch them, and we saw that against Gane, but those guys are gonna like recover, so he's gonna have to lay them out. So it's gonna be hard for him. I wouldn't be shocked if people say he's gonna be the next like Derek Lewis, where he is a fan favorite. He'll bring fans. He's very fun. He has a very fun style of fighting, but maybe when he fights against like the top 5 guys, he'll have problems.
For sure.
Yeah.
I think his time in the top 5 is done. I think it's hard for him to be competitive. Now, while he is heavyweight, his height doesn't do him any favors against some of these guys. And I think that is a problem for him also. Volkov had such a massive reach advantage and was just really piecing him up on the feet. And the only way Ty was able to – his best weapon was leg kicks, and it wasn't enough. Like, it just was never going to be enough to beat Volkov that night. I think I have him as the 7th best heavyweight right now, behind the guys you named. And then Volkov and Blades obviously are right there. I would probably book him against Tybura next, because Tybura will stand with him, and that would be a decent fight for both guys. But I just think you're setting Ty up to get hurt if you fight him against anybody better than Tybura right now. And I would say Tybura is probably 10th or 9th right there, depending on how you want to shake it out. Ty's so fun. He's a super fun guy, super fun to watch. But it was kind of hard watching him get beat down the other night and then putting that choke. And he just didn't have any outs. He had no outs with Volkov's game that night. So I think he's definitely hit his ceiling, in my opinion. All right, let's get into the main event. Is there anything you want to say before we really get into it?
No, I've always said every time I do this podcast with you, I'm gonna take away the fan, and I'm just gonna break down the fight in terms of how I saw it. On the personal side, rough to see that, very very rough to see, but Izzy was flat. Izzy was very flat, but Sean Strickland's game plan was near enough pitch perfect. It was fundamentals executed at the highest level. And when I don't want to say the word basic, because if I say the word basic, people are gonna go, "Oh, you're kind of just like downplaying it." No, sometimes if you can just if you know what you're good at, and you kind of hone in on that, and you can see, okay, my strengths, if I can construe them in a way against my opponent to really negate what he's good at, and just keep it simple but effective, that's it. Like you don't have to be the very like all dynamic, all world. I do all these crazy stuff. I'm this technically gifted and stuff. If you can just keep things solid and you know yourself, and you can be disciplined and keep to it and execute it at the highest level, you will go far. And that's what Sean, and that's literally what Sean did, you know. After, when he caught Izzy in the first round, I knew, oh shit, he's in trouble now. He's in trouble. And he came back in round two. But after that, Sean Strickland literally went, okay, I've seen what Izzy has thrown at me, and it didn't put him off, and he kept going. And he wore on him. And to see someone do that to Izzy on the feet, it wasn't as if he literally took him down and weared him out. This fight stayed on the feet. Israel Adesanya is one of, if not the best striker that I've seen within the UFC and with MMA in general. And in terms of all the years that I've watched this week in, week out. And Sean shut that shit down. Like, he shut it down. And that was crazy to see. Like, that is the definition of a perfect game plan executed really, really well. And I know a lot of people don't really like Sean, and to be fair, some of the shit he says is fucking nuts. And I wouldn't call myself a fan of him, but anyone who watches MMA has to really appreciate what he did. And that's really what I can really say.
Yeah. I'm gonna piggyback off of what you said. We've both been on record and said that Sean Strickland's an asshole, and he makes it hard for people to want to root for him. I know there's a lot of, like, he has a big set of fans, but for people that are similar to me and you, it's hard to root for that guy because of the way he is. And I think it's like, I have a lot of respect for his coach, because his coach went out and said, Sean says a lot of shit that we don't even agree with ourselves, but we know him personally. We know what he's about in the cage. We know what he goes through to be on this level. And I thought that the interview his coach did was really eye-opening for me about Sean. It's hard to put away people being in your face in the camera saying crazy shit, but when you see somebody humanize that guy away from the camera, it's really nice to see. As the fight went on and on, I found it hard to not want to see Sean make history. Like, I thought it was such a perfect fight, and you're fighting one of the all-time greats in Israel Adesanya, and you're shutting him down. It was really hard not to want to see Sean win that fight because of Izzy's greatness. Because we got to see it one other time, really, when Anderson fought Chael. We got to see somebody come as close as they could to beating that guy in their prime. You know what I mean? Like, that's the top guy in that era. We got to see somebody come super close before Anderson, got hurt and fell off. It felt like that, and I thought that's kind of how it would end up. Is Izzy would maybe make a comeback and win the fight, and we'd get super close. But Sean did it.
He never got going. Apart from round 2, he never got going, and Sean did not allow him to get going.
And I think that's what's more impressive also is he just shut down one of the greatest strikers we've ever seen, like you said. And I think to this day, I'm just blown away with how perfect Sean fought that night. And I think he deserves all the props in the world. The guy's the middleweight champion of the world, and it just still blows my mind that he fought that perfect of a fight. So, massive shout out to Sean. Really appreciate Izzy being humble and going over and congratulating Sean. And, he flat out said he beat me that night. He was the better man tonight. And it takes a lot to say that when you're as good as Israel Adesanya is. So, a lot of respect for that. Tough night at the office for Izzy, clearly. He will obviously be back. Let me pose a quick question to you, and then we'll move on to UFC Noche. If Izzy isn't the immediate rematch, which we don't know what Izzy wants to do, I'm assuming he wants to get back in there just because of that seems how he is. That's the kind of guy he is. If he's not available to go right away, who would you want to see fight for the belt next?
It isn't a case of who I want to see. I guess it's a case of who should. Yeah. And on merit, it should be Dricus, because if you go out there and you beat Rob, that kind of just warrants a title shot.
Right.
The only problem is if Hamzat beats Costa and ragdolls him, if it isn't Izzy,
right. That's the whole point. Izzy's out of it, so it's got to be.
If it isn't Izzy, Dricus should get the title shot. But if Hamzat ragdolls Costa, he will 100% get that next title shot, because he is a big star, and he will put eyeballs. He'll put eyeballs out there, like, for sure. So in my personal opinion, I would say Dricus, but I wouldn't be shocked if Khamzat wins it. But to be fair, Dana White's already came out and said that he wants to do the rematch.
Yeah.
And when you have someone like Izzy, who is one of their biggest stars, probably the biggest star outside of Conor right now, and if you're paying him a shit ton of money, you kind of need guys like that to have the belt in order to justify, one, paying them that much, and two, to obviously bring in those big pay-per-view events. So I'll be really honest. Dricus should honestly get the next shot, but to be honest, if I'm being real, Izzy is probably going to rematch Sean. I wouldn't be shocked if Izzy says I want to fight him end of the year, because just kind of seeing how he is, but most likely probably be in the first quarter of 2024.
Gotcha. All right, well, let's move on to UFC Noche, Grasso versus the Bullet 2. Anything on the undercard catch your eye?
Quite a few, actually. One of them is my guy, Kopilov. He had the recent head kick viral moment like the other day. Very, very talented middleweight, mean on the feet. He's technically sound, but he has bad intentions. Like, if he knows he can go out there and put you away, he will, and he won't, and he's mean with it. And there's Tracy Cortez. I know a lot of people know her because she was with Brian Ortega, but she's really good. Like, don't just let the whole hype around her fool you. She's 10-1 for a reason, and she's been undefeated in the UFC so far. She's a really good grappler, really good grappler. And Lupi Godinez is another one. I'm a really big fan of hers. She has a very, 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 very fun style. So I'll say those three in terms of the prelims are the ones that I would say to go and watch out for.
And then Tracy Cortez fights Jasmine. I can't say her last name, but she's the one who shut down Miranda Maverick in her last fight. So
Yeah.
she's coming into this fight with a little steam also. So good for her. That should be a fun fight in the ladies division. Let's get into the main card. Fernando Padilla versus Kyle Nelson. Padilla is the favorite going into this fight. How are you seeing this one shaking out?
I can see why Padilla is obviously favored. Carl Nelson's one of the ones, he's been there, done that. Like he's a vet, but Padillo's coming off, really good wins, a lot of momentum, and he's also younger as well.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and if you're obviously opening Mexican Independence Day, you're basically gonna want to go out there and really go out and show out. So I'm gonna have Padilla winning. I'm gonna say within 2 rounds.
Okay, I'm gonna go with Padilla also. Yeah, like for the similar reasons you said, and I also think fighting on this card is gonna give some of these guys and gals a little extra juice. Yeah, I got Padilla winning this fight over Kyle Nelson. I'll say I think second round's fair. I think that's a good call. Let's move on to Daniel Zellhuber versus Christos Gigos. How you seeing this one getting going?
So Zellhuber calls himself the Golden Boy.
Mm-hmm.
If you are a Mexican fighter and you call yourself the Golden Boy, that is big shoes to fill. I mean, I only remember Oscar De La Hoya when he got whooped by Manny Pacquiao, but obviously because I was pretty much a kid when that happened. That's one of the first fights I actually remember, and that what made me a really big Pac-Man fan. But obviously, just looking back on boxing over the years, do not let Oscar as the crazy guy that he kind of shows himself to be now. The guy was a legend. So if you're Mexican and you call yourself like the Golden Boy, that's big shoes to fill. He's 24. I think he's 10-1. He looks very impressive. Like I've kind of looked back on one or two of his fights. He looks really good, and I feel like Kyrgios is kind of being served up for him.
I was feeling the same way. This is kind of a setup for the night. I'm taking the Golden Boy also. Yeah, but you got to watch. Gigos he's got good wrestling, so I would be careful about that and him trying to take him down and trying to grind him out. I mean, that would probably be the way to beat the Golden Boy if possible. But yeah, I'm going with Zellhuber also. Next fight on the card is Raul Rosas Jr. versus Terrence Mitchell. Terrence Mitchell's been busy, man. That guy's been going lately, pretty hard. He's got 3 fights this year already.
Mm-hmm.
How do you see this one going? I think they're kind of feeding him to Rosas Jr. here, right?
See, this is at first I thought that because he kind of got whipped by Cameron Simon recently, and Simon's really good. Like he's definitely gonna be one of those bantamweights who's gonna make noise eventually. But before then, Mitchell was on an 11-fight win streak. And we kind of saw this in Raul's last fight. He was like, people were kind of like sleeping on his last opponent because they kind of brought the type of, he's so young, he's already in the UFC, and he kind of got big broed a little bit in his last fight. Raul just needs to learn how to manage his gas tank because he comes up flying very, very early, and he really goes for broke. And if you're able to handle that and kind of like rein in him a little bit, he will get tired very, very quickly because he burns out so much so soon. I would like to think that ever since then he's been very quiet, and that kind of gives the impression that he may be just in the gym every day, literally just training and learning. And I do have him making a bounce back. I've got him getting a late submission in the 3rd round.
Nice. That's a good call. I don't know if it gets to the 3rd round. I'm thinking he's going to try to get him out of there in the 1st round. So I'm going to go with a 1st round submission. I just think it's going to be too much.
But if he goes out and be reckless again, I will not be shocked if he does end up losing a unanimous decision or anything like that.
That would be really rough for his stock.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
It's just like my pick is just based on the thought that if he has learned his lesson.
Yeah.
If he hasn't, he's going to find himself in trouble because whereas in his other fights, he's fighting against regional level guys. Everyone in the UFC was good on the regional scene. There is a reason why in which they're here. So he's gonna have to learn to kind of manage himself, and to be fair, he's gonna have to improve his hands, because if you go out there just going shooting down for takedowns and grappling, you will eventually come against someone who can kind of keep it on the feet. And that's when he could be in trouble. But this game, man, is fucking fun. I can't wait to talk about this one.
Let's move on. Our guy, Kevin Holland.
I can't wait to talk about this one.
Kevin Holland back on the card versus Jack Della Maddalena. Ooh, this has got fireworks written all over it. Absolute fireworks.
Fight of the night.
Easily, fight of the night.
Okay. Thank you. Fight of the night.
All right. AJ, how does Kevin Holland win this fight?
He uses his range, and he doesn't let Jack Della come inside, and uses great inside boxing.
Would you be upset if Kevin Holland just took him down and grinded him out? Because I think he could win the fight that way if he really wanted to.
He can.
I don't think he will. But would you be upset with Kevin if he did it that way?
This is hard, all right. Like, the fan of me just literally wants to see these two great people on the feet streak it out, because you got one guy who's very slick, rangy, he's got movement for days, he is a bit more technical than what people will give him credit for. And then you've always got JDM, who just has great boxing. Really great boxing all around, and he really knows how to walk down people. In terms of grappling, in terms of jiu-jitsu especially, Kevin Holland has that advantage in there, even though Jack Della did sub Randy Brown. And Kevin Holland is, if you manage to go and take his back, he does have a kryptonite there, as seen in previous fights. But he's shown at welterweight, it's really hard to take him down, because he's not against bigger guys now, so he has a bit more of a advantage in that regards. This fight's going to be fun. This fight is going to be very, very fun. It does kind of suck in a way that I just want to bring this up, that obviously we were meant to have Gastelum against Shafkat. That's a shame that fight's not happening. But I do feel that this fight is a lot more competitive,
right,
in that regard. I'm gonna go Kevin Holland shocks a lot of people and finishes him in round 2.
Yeah, I'm going to take it a step further. I think Kevin Holland beats him up. After watching how JDM struggled in his last fight, I think Kevin Holland's just a better fighter at this point right now than JDM is. Now, they're not going to fight on the ground the same way. I just think he's better.
I will be careful with that, only because Jack Della did also cut weight twice in a very short period of time, and that does play a factor sometimes.
But they also rolled out the red carpet for him in an easy fight, and he got worked. He lost that fight.
Oh yeah.
I mean, so you can still, I think the weight cut does affect you, but you're also fighting a guy who's really hot right now in Kevin Holland.
And this fight will show how good of a striker Jack Della is, because we've seen Kevin Holland like it's apart from Wonder Boy, and even in the Wonder Boy fight, Kevin won the first round before he went and broke his hand. Before he broke his hand,
Yeah.
we haven't really seen Kevin be outmatched on the feet yet so far. Probably against Thiago Santos as well in his first fight years ago. So this fight right here is going to show how good Jack Della really is on the feet, and it's going to be a fun one. It's going to be you've always got one guy who can rangy outside, another guy who comes in the inside and really puts in work. Two styles. You got a bull and you got like a matador in a way. It's going to be very fun to see how these styles clash.
Yeah, no, it's going to be great.
To this,
I'm pumped. I cannot wait to watch this weekend. Let's get into the championship fight. Women's flyweight titles on the line. Alexa Grasso, who upset the Bullet in their last fight, defends her title against the Bullet. Can lightning strike twice for Alexa Grasso? What do you think?
It's capable. It's very much possible because even before the renated choke, really, even though it wasn't under the neck, it was just literally just squashing like her jaw.
Yeah.
Grasso looked good, especially in southpaw. She gave that Valentina problems in southpaw. I guess if I'm Valentina, just keep things basic this time because her throwing that spinning back kick is what got her in trouble. It's what got her in trouble. You know, one time, you know, like she basically showed her back to Grasso. Grasso snapped on it, took her down, and that was literally all it wrote. Even though I thought Valentina was winning the fight just before then.
Yeah.
But winning the belt changes someone. If you go out there and you beat someone like that, that can Grasso now walks out knowing that I can beat you. There isn't this like the whole aura of Valentina being invincible at 125 pounds is gone now. Yes. It's gone because it wasn't as if Grasso won on points. It was decisive. She took her down and she choked her out, and she looked really good in spots as well. And Shevchenko is also 35, so we don't know if she's coming out of her prime or she's going like if she's heading towards the twilight of her career. But kind of just knowing what she's like around, you know, like fight time and like the way that she carries herself, she's gonna be dialed in. Like you're gonna see Valentina at her most dialed in a long time. I just have a funny feeling that lightning will strike twice. I just feel like this time Grasso is probably going to win on points.
Okay. Like it.
Yeah. Again, I just feel if she keeps it in southpaw and really just pours it on the Valentino, I can see her kind of just eventually just. I don't want to say it's going to be like Izzy against Sean, but I can see it just doing enough just to kind of just keep her at bay and just nullifying Shevchenko getting success.
Okay. So you think unanimous decision?
Yeah.
Okay. I like that. I like that pick. I do think the Bullet's going to be a little more calculated than she was last time. She took a big risk with that kick, and it really did not pay off. What was it? Did we have it 2-1 Shevchenko in the fourth when she got subbed?
I think what it was? 2-1.
Because I mean that round would have went to Grasso.
Yeah.
In theory, so I mean it was still very close. I did agree that the Bullet was winning to that point. I think Grasso was kind of pouring it on in the fourth there.
Yeah.
I like Grasso. I think I would like to see her retain. I'm going to pick her to win the fight, but one thing you can't do is count out the Bullet. She's so good, and if there's not a drop off in her skills, it's going to be another long night and a long hard fight. And that unanimous decision, I think that's going to be the right choice. I'm going to go Grasso by decision also. So That's our breakdown for UFC Noche. That should be a really fun event this weekend. AJ, you got anything else before we get out of here today?
Jujutsu Kaisen is the best show on earth right now. That's pretty much what I gotta say. Oh, have you watched the live action One Piece show?
No,
I haven't watched it.
It doesn't interest me.
Doesn't interest you?
I think it look. I don't like the way it looks. I don't know why it bothers me, but it does.
Fair.
I mean, and I guess I shouldn't because One Piece in itself is goofy, but like I don't know. It's just I think it's weird. I think live action's a lot more difficult to be that level of goofy in for some reason. To me personally, what did you think of it? I mean, have you enjoyed it?
I haven't actually watched it yet.
I thought you said you did watch it.
No, I haven't watched it yet. But you know, all of our friends in our group just love it so far. So I'm definitely gonna watch it at some point. I've been quite busy, just watching other things and just being busy in general, just with family and stuff. But I'm definitely gonna probably watch it either tomorrow or next week. I guess kind of just running along the theme of Mexican Independence Day. There is a fight on in boxing. I think it's Lopez and Gonzalez, I think, at featherweight. So, you know.
Is that Friday night?
I think it is, yeah. I think it's Friday night. So, obviously, those, again, anyone who knows boxing, quote me if I'm wrong. If I'm wrong about the days and then names and stuff. I think one of them is called Lopez because he fought over here recently and he won. He defended his belt. But you know, again, if you're like a big boxing fan, that is definitely the fight to watch. And yeah, man, like apart from that, just thank you everyone who keeps tuning in week in, week out. We're going to try to be a bit more consistent, but again, me and Doug both have lives, and sometimes that will obviously get in the way, and that's cool. But next week, your boy's back. Rotang is in a big one. He's in a big one. He's in a big one.
We look forward to you breaking that one down for us. Guys, this is HOAMMA. Hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, help us out, hit us up on Twitter. We're all over the place. And we will see you guys next week. HOA out.
Out.